Today we're going to talk about basic age word problems. These are all going to look pretty much the same. Basic age word problems. So, we have something like this. Bob is twice as old as his sister. In 3 years. The sum of their ages will be 60. How old is each? Alright. Let me explain this from the beginning. Bob is twice as old as his sister. So we have Bob, we have his sister. We want to make one of them x, and then write the other one in terms of x. Typically, the one that comes second is going to be x. So his sister is x. Bob is twice, which means times 2. So Bob is 2x. Now this is going to get a little complicated to just write it out, so we put it into a table. Bob and his sister, and we say right now Bob is 2x and his sister is x. His sister could be 7 years old, she could be 30 years old, she could be 112 years old. We have no clue, and so that's why we call it x.
What?
But if his sister is 12 years old, then Bob is 24, because Bob is 2 times as old. So that's why we get Bob in terms of x, is so that we don't have to come back at the end and resolve for another variable. Okay? So this makes it a little bit easier. Bob is 2x, his sister is x. So if his sister is 120, how old is Bob?
100.
2 times 120, which would be 240 years old. Okay. The next step is to just read this part. In 3 years. And we're just going to fill out plus 3, and we're stopping. Right? Halt. In 3 years. Well, if his sister is x years old now, in 3 years, she'll be x plus 3 years old. If she's 7 now, in 3 years she'll be 10. X plus 3. 7 plus 3 is 10. If she's 120 now, in 3 years she'll be 123. Okay, Bob is 2x. So in 3 years, how old will he be?
2x plus 3.
2x plus 3. He'll be his age now plus 3. Now we can go about solving this using this column. In 3 years, so that tells us we're going to use this column. On your homework, every single problem is going to be the sum of their ages. So I want you to watch really carefully how I do this. The sum of their ages. I take this box, 2x plus 3, and I add it to this box, x plus 3. That is the sum, okay? All of that. Will be. Anytime we see the verb be, whether it's is, are, was, will be,
Equals.
that means equals. 60. I'm going to write 60 as a math number. Oh, it already is a number. 60.
Whoa.
That's the easy part, right?
What?
60. A math number. That sounded a little funny.
No.
We're trying to translate English into math, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these things seem tricky, like the sum. Oh, we have to remember that means plus. B, okay, that's equals. But when you see a number, it's kind of a gift, right? 60, that's just 60. So now we need to solve this. The way we solve it is to combine like terms. 2x plus x is 3x. 3 plus 3 is
6
6
equals 6.
equals 60.
You
So I've combined my like terms. Now I have a two-step equation. So I can do what you were just saying, subtract 6 from both sides.
54.
3x equals 60 minus 6, which is
54.
54. And then I can divide both sides by 3.
yeah.
3x divided by 3 is x. 54 divided by 3 is 18. If you didn't know that, you would do this. 54 divided by 3. 3 goes into 5 once. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 goes into 24 8 times.
Yeah. Right.
But we're not done yet.
Yeah, we are.
No, we're not.
X equals
Okay.
18.
No.
X equals 18. We've solved this.
We saw 1/8. Now we're
How
doing
old is
the
Bob?
other.
Now we want
Just
to look.
said that.
We want to look back at the chart. What is x on this chart?
X is 18.
X is 18. So x is 18. That means the sister is how old?
36.
18.
How old is the sister?
18.
18. And
She
Bob
is X years old.
And Bob is
Right?
36.
So the sis is 18
18. And then
years. Bob
it's 36.
is 2 times X. 2 times X is 36 years.
Yeah.
I always pictured Bob as 8 years old.
Now, let's just think about this. When we started this problem, we knew that Bob was going to be twice as old as his sister. Does our answer tell us that Bob is twice as old as his sister?
Yes.
Yeah, so this makes sense, right? We want to just take a second, even if you're not going to fully check your work, which you of course will, but even before you fully check your work, you're going to take a second to just ask, does this make sense? Is Bob really older than his sister? Is he really twice as old? Yes, he is in this answer. Okay? So that's it. Can I erase this?
C.
If you guys learn one thing this year in math class, hopefully you'll learn a lot more than one thing. Actually, I know that you'll learn a lot more than one thing. But let's say you only remember one thing. Someone comes along, a magician, and they say, I'm only going to allow you to remember one thing from math this year. What do you think I want it to be?
This.
This.
No? These are all great things to remember.
The word.
The words. These would all be awesome things to remember. I hope you remember all of them. What do we do every single day in math class?
How to talk.
Pardon?
Add.
Learning.
How do we learn? What's the main thing that you guys are doing while I'm doing this?
Taking notes.
Yes. If you remember one thing, it's to take good notes, okay? How to take good notes. So, I want you to make sure, when we're taking good notes, that you, number one, write down everything I write on the board. Absolutely everything.
Well, what if?
Number
what if you-
two,
What if you can't remember?
I say something, and that makes sense to you, then you need to write it down, right? So if I say something and you're like, oh yeah, I want to make sure I remember that, or oh yeah, now I get this, then you write that down as well. Okay? So at the end of today's lecture, I'm going to come around and really carefully check your notes from today. I want to make sure that you guys are writing everything down
You should have told us that
and that
earlier.
you're noticing all this. You should be doing this every day. So you should never need a reminder.
I know,
about
see,
this.
the thing is that if I pay attention now,
Okay.
I understand it now, so then I understand the homework, and then if I need to take notes.
Yeah,
I'll
and
go
that
back
is
and
a
watch
trick.
the video.
There certainly is a trick to this, which is you need to be paying attention. And that's why I will always pause if you guys have questions. And that's why I try to ask, can I erase this, right? I don't always remember that, but if I don't, you can say, you know, wait, I have a question about that, or can you just pause for a second while I, you know, get the notes from my neighbor if I already erased it.
That's still going.
Yeah. Still going because this is important stuff. This is stuff that I want everyone to know. Taking notes is important. All right. That's part of the reason to ask questions, actually. Really? Is because it allows us to pause for a second when you ask a really good question and think about that question. It might let you get caught up on writing down what's on the board or whatever as well. And so think about, as you write stuff down, think about good questions to ask, right? It's a really good strategy. All right. This one is the first one on your homework tonight. Maddie
Yay!
is 3 times as old as Sarita.
Okay.
In
Not
8
true. I'm
years,
older than Maddie.
the sum
12.
of their ages will be 64. How old is each?
Do you want us to write this one too?
Yes.
Definitely.
Do you want your first one properly done?
So the key,
Oh, yes.
the reason that you would want to write this down is because all the work won't make sense unless you can relate it back to the original question, right? So you want to make sure you write down the question as well as the answer part. All right, we're going to make our chart to help us solve this. The chart is going to have Maddie. It's going to have Sarita.
And some
It's going to have 2 columns. One of them is going to be now. So let's start there. Maddie is 3 times as old as Sarita. Which one should I make X?
Maddie. Oh, me. No, me.
Yeah. Make Sarita X. A hint is that she's second. That's not always 100% going to work. The other thing we know is if Maddie is 3 times as old as, then we can write Maddie as 3 times Sarita's age. So we can write her in terms of X. That's what that's called. So 3X and X. In 8 years, stop!
Plus
Halt! Plus 8. 3X plus 8.
X plus 8.
X plus 8. I got all of that just from this in 8 years. I ignored everything else. If this had said next year, what would I have done?
Plus 2.
Next year is plus 2.
Mine's 2.
Wait.
Oh, next year plus 1.
Next year I would have said plus 1, 3X plus 1, X plus 1. If this had said 2 years ago, what would I have done?
Minus 2.
Minus 2, 3X minus 2, X minus 2. If this had said 5 years from now, what would I have done?
Plus 5.
Plus 5, 3X plus 5, X plus 5. If this had said 2 years before this year, what would I have done?
Minus 2.
Minus 2, 3X minus 2, X minus 2. You guys get the idea? There's lots of things it could say, but this strategy that we're using requires us to stop when we find out how many years ago or how many years from now the problem is talking about. And we fill out the whole rest of the boxes, all of the other boxes, just based on that information. Okay. The sum of their ages. How do I do that again? How do I do the sum of their ages? Yeah.
Sum of their ages. So you have to do the top of first. So 3x plus 8 plus x plus 8 equals.
Okay, so this is the sum of their ages.
Yeah.
It's this, see that? Plus, that's what sum means, this. Okay. The tricky thing here is that Maddie's age is this weird looking 3x plus 8. So the sum of their ages would be really simple if their ages were like 10 and 2. We'd say 10 plus 2. But they're not. Maddie's age is 3x plus 8. That's our 10. Plus, Sarita's age is x plus 8. That's our 2. Right? This is one number. This will end up being Sarita's age. This will end up being Maddie's age. And we got it from this box right here. This box plus this box is the sum of their ages. Okay, will be, what did I say? Equals 64. Another one of those darn numbers.
Equals.
Okay, now I have to solve this. How am I going to solve it? What would you do?
You add 3x and x.
Nice, let's combine like terms. We'll add 3x and x, which gives us 4x. What else can we do? 8 and 8, which gives us plus 16.
Equals.
Now, if this step is hard for you, here's another trick that you can do. When you combine 3x and x, cross them out. And then you know you have 4x. When you combine 8 and 8, cross them out. And then you can see there's nothing else left there. Okay, this is a little trick that works for some people. I tend not to do it because I like to be able to look back and see all the numbers. And I can keep track of them in my head as I add them together. But if you're having trouble with that, cross these out when you make 4x. And then look, and you'll just see the 8 and the 8. Add those, make 16, and cross them out. Okay? It'll just help you see what you've used and what's left. 4x plus 16 equals 64. How do I solve that one?
Subtract 16 from both sides.
Okay.
And 64 minus 16 is...
So what I'm going to say is let's raise hands then. So what am I going to get over here? 4x plus 16 minus 16 is
48.
No.
No,
Oh.
0.
48
It's
over here.
on that side,
Good.
and on the other side it's
And on this
crossed
side,
out.
it would be what?
4x.
4x equals 48.
Okay. Next step.
Divide by 4.
Divide this by 4?
Both sides.
Both sides.
And that gives you
12.
12. What
X
Sarita is
equals-
12.
So, x equals 12. Let's look back at the chart. Which one of them is x?
Sarita.
Sarita. So Sarita is 12 years old.
Therefore, you multiply 12 by 3.
36.
Maddie is how old?
36.
3 times 12, exactly 36.